Hare Gopi Jana Balaba Giri Bharat Hare Gopi Jana Balaba Giri Bharat Hare Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radhu Madhova Kunja Bihari Jayurad Madhuva Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Malaba Giribharadhauti Gopi Jana Malaba Giribharadhauti Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhuva Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhuva Kunya Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatakacharya also Tada Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Say Kaho Shri Krishna, Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha, Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopinath, Shyam Kund Radhakunda, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Ki Jai, Maturam Ki Jai, Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta, Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda, Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nivashesha Sunyavadi Paschacha Deja Tarini. So Om Ganati Miranda Shagaranjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my divine spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who has so kindly saved me from this ocean of misery while my eyes were in the darkness of ignorance, by opening my eyes with transcendental knowledge. Jai Prabhupada. Okay, we're going to go to Gita. I just want to share, whoops, got to turn up my phone. I want to share a little interesting tidbit before class. You might be interested in hearing this. As many of you are aware, I was one of the baby boomers. Means after World War II, a lot of kids were born for a variety of reasons. Anyway, so during the 1960s and 70s, actually 60s, because the 70s I was actually a member of the Hare Krishna movement and had become completely renounced from the material world. But anyway, during the 1960s, before I renounced this world and went back to Godhead, I used to listen to to sometimes, music like folk music and things like that. And one particular song popped into my mind today. And it's not Maya, don't worry. It's a song by this group called Simon and Garfunkel. I don't know if any of you heard about them before, but anyway, whatever. And they have a song that's called At the Zoo. And it actually described, in a metaphorical way, how the zoo was actually, I mean, you really have to read between the lines in the song, how the zoo was actually this material world. And as that led to me understanding perfectly what Prabhupada said about everybody in this material world is engaged in these four animal activities. Remember? Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And so what happened is a really interesting thing, that I was at the university at that time. I was a very good student, a AAA student. Anyway, so I went to the university, and I was taking a music class in music. And so we all had to do our original compositions and before the whole class, just make a whole composition, but also a multimedia composition. It couldn't be just like us sitting with a guitar and just chanting, Hare Krishna, like that. So it has to be something original. So I wrote this song that was based upon Simon and Garfunkel's song At the Zoo. And the name of the song was Your Poor Little Animals. I remember it pretty well. Locked up in cages, you are unable to be free. So what I did for my multimedia presentation, I think you all find this interesting, is that I would take pictures of animals doing different things at the zoo. Like, for example, there were two animals engaged in, I guess there were monkeys who had gotten married previously. But anyway, there were two monkeys engaged in romantic affairs. I think you get the idea. And that, of course, they didn't have their clothes on. But anyway, so I would take a picture of that. This was a slideshow. In these days, we didn't have computers. We just had a slide, camera, and develop the slides, etc., like that. So I took a picture, juxtaposing the picture of the two monkeys with a couple of human beings. So I'd flash from one thing to the other. So there were the two monkeys, in love. And then I'd flash to a young couple that was, quote, in love. And then all these things, and then I had the tiger eating his meat, and then I flashed to somebody in a restaurant. I think you can all understand this, one slide after the other. And while I was singing this song about you poor little animals, and actually was stimulated by hearing Simon and Garfunkel's song like At the Zoo. I'm not saying you should listen to that song, but you may want to listen to a song after the class, not now. I'm not going to sing it for you. So, and I went through all the animal propensity. This is before I came in contact with Prabhupada, actually. So I had some idea, I guess it was previous birth, that, eating, sleeping, mating, defending was not the goal of the human form of life. And I just tried to show this in the class. I did very well. Actually, I got an A, I think, in that presentation, but I probably lost all my friends in class after that, after I revealed the so-called naked truth of reality to them. Because, in class, it's a university, there's boys and girls holding hands, and then there were two monkeys holding hands on the screen, too. And they were... Anyway, I was actually inspired, just to tell you the truth, I was inspired by that song. And it's interesting, we can learn things about this material world when people say certain things. If we're actually Krishna conscious when we hear something, even if it's a nonsense song, we can actually learn something and then do a whole class on that. So one day I'll actually put together that slideshow for everybody, so you can see this juxtaposition of eating, sleeping. Of course, sleeping also I think I had a bear in the bear house. And the bear was sleeping like that. And then I took a picture, maybe took a picture of my mother sleeping or something. I'm not sure. And anyway, I did it. And I was, I was kind of unruly as a kid. And then eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Oh yeah, I had a picture of people with guns and everything like that. And then a tiger, with his claws. It's interesting. That's why I always like to go to zoos. We have a very nice zoo here in North Carolina. Of course, you can't go now because of the virus. It's in Asheboro. And years ago, I would sometimes take the children to the zoo, and I really enjoyed it because I was able to explain to people how this is the nature of the whole world right now. And we are meant for something more than being at a zoo. And you had the monkeys with their little baby monkeys on their backs. It was cute. Anyway, so hopefully you all won't think I'm an idiot for thinking about this, but it's actually Krishna conscious. So one day we want to maybe I'll do a Zoom class from the zoo one day. That would be really cool. As soon as there's no coronavirus, I'll go to the zoo and then we'll actually show you juxtapose pictures. I guess where am I going to? Yeah, we'll get pictures of people too. And we'll show you how there's no difference. There is no difference between human beings when they eat, sleep, mate, and defend, and animals. And I'm not saying human beings should stop eating, sleeping, mating, defending. But if that's all you're doing, then it's better you're an animal because you'll have a better time at it. Prabhupada would often talk about that. He said, you want to sleep more, you can sleep like a bear all winter. And if you like mating so much, Prabhupada made reference to the pigeons who can have so many romantic affairs every day. I think it was 50 or something like that, if I remember correctly, what Prabhupada said. And, tigers can eat or whatever, or pigs. There's basically, oh my God, there's basically no difference between a pig eating and a human eating, just we have different substances that we like. But we make it so sophisticated, like we mentioned the other night, about we go in an airplane and we're eating our nice dinner that's being served by the stewardess or whatever, but we're no more than flying pigs. Pigs that we're eating in the airplane. And we go to our restaurants and we're so careful to use the right fork, and like you get one fork is for the cake, another fork is for the meat. I'm not saying I do that. One knife is for the bread, another knife is for the meat, and the spoon is for God knows what the spoon is for. I don't even remember. And everything has to be done so perfectly. I remember going to one restaurant. It was like, in those days, it was a lot of money. It was $100 a plate. We went to one restaurant with my parents. It was in the New York World's Fair in 1960 something. And it was in this big tower. Those of you who are older than me will remember it. And it was just like so fancy. But there was no difference between that and just eating some slop on the street. So we have to see and understand that our physical activities are not something that we should dedicate our lives to. Even one time, it was another interesting story about this before we go on to Bhagavadgita. That one time, I was at a temple, and devotees were taking prasadam. So another devotee said to me, shh, be quiet. You finish prasadam, just be real quiet, and listen to the sound in the prasadam room. And so it was like all these, like it's like I'd gone to a barn. You understand? Barn. It's just like, and I thought, that's it. This world is not a romantic place. a romantic place. You know, because actually that, anyway, I won't tell you the rest of the story. Anyway, so it was funny. So don't romanticize. The whole point is don't romanticize bodily activities because that's all they are. Oh, we got someone who's chatting, trying to. Yes, zoos are pretty cruel. That is true. That is true. I would never want to put an animal in the zoo. In the same way, human society is very cruel too. That's actually a good point. So I'm not in favor of zoos, but we are already living in a zoo, all of us. So welcome to the zoo, Prabhus. And the only difference is that we chant Hare Krishna. But for the grace of God, there go I. Okay, on that happy note, and the university was like a zoo too. In many different ways when I went there, you know, people getting drunk and all sorts of things like that. Actually, I wrote to my mother. This is another interesting story. That my first year at the university, I stayed in the dormitory. And every Saturday, well, Sunday, at least Sunday morning, everybody was drunk in the halls and they were just like vomiting and everything like that. And I had never seen anything like that in my life before. Because I had been a brahmachari. No, I hadn't been a brahmachari. An innocent young man. And I wrote to my mother, I said, this is like a bunch of animals. It's like Animal House here. So, anyway, on that happy note, let's go to Bhagavad-Gita before I bore you all with all these stories. Okay, so now we're going to go to Bhagavad-Gita in 10th chapter. And we are on text 28, which is our next text. Here we go. All right, let me just move this window out of the way so I can see better. Text 28. Ayudanam aham vajram denunam asmi kamaduk prajanaschasmi kandarpa sarpanam asmi vasukahi. Ayudanam, of all weapons, aham, I am, vajram, the thunderbolt, denunam, of cows, asmi, I am, kamaduk, the Surabhi cow, prajanaha, the cause for begetting children, Cha, and asmi, I am, Kandarpaha, Cupid. Sarpanam, of serpents, asmi, I am, Vasukihi, Vasuki. Of weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Phew. Of cows, among cows, I am the Surabhi. Of causes for procreation, I am Kandarpa, the god of love. And of serpents, I am Vasuki. So maybe we'll read the purport and then I'll comment on all these different points. The thunderbolt, indeed a mighty weapon, represents Krishna's power. In Krishna Loka, in the spiritual sky, there are cows which can be milked at any time, and they give as much milk as one likes. Of course, such cows do not exist in this material world, but there is mention of them in Krishna Loka. The Lord keeps many such cows, which are called Surabhi. It is stated that the Lord is engaged in herding the Surabhi cows. Kandarpa is the sex desire for presenting good sons. Therefore, Kandarpa is the representative of Krishna. Sometimes sex is engaged in only for sense gratification. Such sex does not represent Krishna, but sex for the generation of good children is called Kandarpa and represents Krishna. Like Prabhupada said something very funny about, let's talk about Kandarpa first. He said, if the child is actually a devotee, or at least a learned person, the child is called putra. That means he or she who saves the parents from a bad faith, basically going to hell. But if the child is useless, then the child is called mutra. Mutra means basically the son of urine. Anyway, so Prabhupada made that joke one time. So let's talk about Kandarpa, since this is actually a romantic talk when we just got it finished talking about the monkeys. So there actually is a demigod named Kandarpa, or Cupid. Now, there's an interesting history of Cupid, the demigod. Cupid is called Ananga. Now, Ananga means without any limbs. Now, that's kind of interesting. So why is it called Ananga, without any limbs? Well, here's the story. once upon a time, he tried to fire his arrows at Lord Shiva. So, what are the arrows of Cupid? Okay. Form, taste, smell, the objects of the senses. Like that. The objects of the senses. Smell, taste, touch. I like that. Sound. And so he fires them. And so he thought, I mean, this is not that he fires these gross arrows, like you see an arrow coming and you duck. Phew! I'm glad I avoided that one. So, this is, but it's actual energy of Kandarpa, or Cupid. So, Lord Shiva got so upset that he basically disembodied Cupid. Cupid was burned to ashes. But because he's a demigod, he can exist in a far more subtle plane. And that subtle plane is such that he cannot be perceived by others. So Cupid comes along and he fires his arrows, and all of a sudden, boom, you are bewildered. Like there's another song that says, when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. What does that mean? That means you go into illusion. Now, we're not talking about, we should have love. Everyone should love everybody else. Husband should love the wife should love the husband, brothers should love each other, devotees should love each other, we should love everybody. I understand that. But when we're talking about the objects of the senses, we're talking about using someone for my own enjoyment or your own enjoyment. Like, you love something because it pleases your senses. Like many years ago, I used to say, I love pizza. Now, what does that mean? I love the taste of pizza. But it's not love in the same sense that we have prema or spiritual love. It's just something that pleases my senses. So most of the interactions in this world are like that. So anyway, getting back to the point of Kandarpa, once upon a time, Kandarpa, the god of love, decided, along with Indra and some of the demigods, to try to go after Krishna in a specific incarnation called Narayan. Actually, it was Krishna and Arjuna together, who appeared as twin sons of Dharma. And they were meditating. Chanting the holy names, everything like that. So Indra comes down, Cupid comes down, and the personification of spring is there, and there's birds chirping. Just like sometimes people talk to me on the internet, and they hear, because I have birds right near my house, oh, there's birds chirping. Haven't heard that before, because most people live in the city. So anyway, so there were birds chirping, it was springtime, there were breezes, and not only that, they brought down some of the girls from the heavenly planets, what are called apsaras, and they were dancing. Okay, so there was the dancing going on, Cupid firing his arrows, springtime, you name it, the birds chirp, 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 like that. Then what happened as Narayana Rishi opened his eyes and basically yawned. Well, the reason he yawned is because Krishna is ultimately detached from everything in this world. He has unlimited Lakshmis in the spiritual world. What does he need of anything in this world? And Prabhupada gives the example that if someone is manufacturing sweets, you can't really influence his mind by offering him sweets because he's the manufacturer of sweets. So anyway, so what happened is ultimately they realized they made a big mistake, which is called a boo-boo, and they apologized. And then Krishna just created another pretty girl, whose name was Urvashi, and said, take her back with you if you want. So Krishna shows that he creates everything. Everything comes from him, as we know from earlier in this chapter, right? Aham sarvasya prabhu matak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajanti mam buddhabhava samanvataha. Remember, 10:8. Okay, so that's Cupid. And so what do we do about Cupid? Because he's there, or this energy is there, just like ready to lure you in. Anyway, what do? Be alert. Control the mind, control the senses, and love Krishna. If you love Krishna, then there's that example. Okay, let me give the example, that story of Ramanujacharya and Dhanurdas. And I gave that story before, but some of you may not remember it. That Dhanurdas was completely overwhelmed by Cupid's energy. He was completely in love with his girlfriend. In fact, he was walking backwards, holding an umbrella over his girlfriend's head because it was hot outside, and using a chamra, like a fan, to fan her. And he was asked, why are you so devoted and attached? And what did he answer? Because she has beautiful eyes. And then Ramanujacharya said, if I show you someone with more beautiful eyes, will you go to see that person? And he agreed, and then he went to see the deities. And he was overwhelmed with the beautiful eyes of the deities. That's Varadaraja, the wish-fulfilling deity. And then he got married to his girlfriend. And they lived happily ever after, and they became great devotees of the Lord. So we're not decrying marriage. We're just saying that Krishna is so infinitely beautiful, attractive, that everything else pales by comparison to Krishna. And all that there is in this world, this is the opulence of Krishna. All that there is in this world of beautiful, magnificent, gigantic things which we're hearing about in this particular chapter, all springs but from a spark of Krishna's splendor. So when you have Krishna, it's just everything else is boring in comparison. It's just, boring. At least I think like that. Anyway, so let's see what else was there. Cows, the Surabhi cow, like Prabhupada said, can give unlimited milk, yogurt, cheese, any type of cheese you want. If you want to make pizza in the spiritual world for Krishna, that's all right. And then Vasuki is a serpent, and he was used in the story of the churning of the milk ocean, which we mentioned before. Actually, we mentioned that yesterday. So these particular individuals and what they do represent some of Krishna's greatness. Text 29. Anantas chasmi naganam varuno yadasam aham patrinam aryama chasmi yama samyamatang aham ananta cha also asmi I am naganam of the many-hooded serpents, varunaha the demigod controlling the water, yadasam of all aquatics, aham I am, pitrinam of the ancestors, aryama cha also asmi I am, yamaha the controller of death, samyamatang of all regulators, aham I am, of the many-hooded nagas are like snakes, I am Ananta. But these nagas also have the ability to change their form. They're like mystic snakes, okay? Not just like regular like copperheads or something like that. They have the ability, they can look like human beings sometimes. They can look like snakes. They can do so many things. And some of them are nice, and some of them are not nice. I'm Ananta, and among the aquatics, I am the demigod Varuna. Varuna is the demigod of water. Of departed ancestors, I am Aryama. And among the dispensers of law, I am Yama, the Lord of Death. I guess we should talk about him. Purport, among the many-hooded Naga serpents, Ananta is the greatest, as is the demigod Varuna among the aquatics. Ananta is actually an incarnation of Krishna. He's actually Vishnu Tattva. He's not just an ordinary soul, but Varuna is an ordinary soul who's taken that position. They both represent Krishna. There's also a planet of the Pittas, ancestors presided over by Aryama, who represents Krishna. Let me explain that, actually. So this planet of the Pittas, those are ancestors who have their descendants performing pinda. Now, what is pinda? Pinda is a ceremony that's performed on certain days of the year, particularly the anniversary of someone who has passed away, in which you do devotional service and you pray for the person, and the person gets some benefit from it. It's like you're sending money to the vacation spots your grandpa can keep staying in Miami Beach, dancing the hokey pokey. Oh my God. Of course, they don't dance the hokey pokey in Pitri Loka. Anyway, so this place is presided over by Aryama. And when you stop paying the bills, when you stop doing your pinda, then these pitas, the ancestors, they have to take birth again on the earth, planet, or some other place. There are many living entities who give punishment to the miscreants, and among them, Yama, the chief. Yama is situated on a planet near this earthly planet. Oh my God. After death, those who are very sinful are taken there, and Yama arranges different kinds of punishments for them. So, Yama Raj, actually, Yam means restrictions. The word means restrictions. So we have certain restrictions, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, no meat eating, etc., like that. And so he's the king of restrictions. And so you can either follow restrictions voluntarily, or Yama, or Yamaraj, who is the judge. He knows when you've been sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows when you've been bad or good. So be good for goodness sake, as the song goes. Yamaraj is coming to town. Anyway, so he keeps track. Krishna, of course, knows everything, and Krishna informs him. But he's the one who actually keeps track. He has people who work for him to keep track of everybody. I mean, it's a big job. And you get rewarded or punished. Now, the punishments are given not just simply to get punished, but the punishments are given for rectification. It's called restorative justice. It's not that you're being punished just so to make you suffer. That's retributive justice. You're being punished to actually elevate your elevate your consciousness, so you don't do the same thing over and over again. So Yamraj has a whole planet like that, a whole bunch of planets probably, and people are taken there. And I'll tell you an interesting story about Yamraj. There's actually many interesting stories. Like, and I've told this story before, but there's this one devotee here in North Carolina. Her name is Tulsi Devi Dasi. And she used to distribute books at the airport when she was young. And one time, she was distributing books to a bunch of morticians. If you don't know what morticians are, maybe you should watch the Addams Family on TV. So anyway, so the morticians, they take care of bodies of people after they die, and they prepare the bodies for the funeral. Put a nice smile on the guy's face so it looks like he was happy. So she asked the morticians, when people die, what sort of expression do they have? And they were accustomed to taking care of people who died under the influence of not drugs or not illegal drugs, but under the influence of anesthesia or something like that in the hospital. She said, they just look normal. And then she said, well, let's say, talk about before people were dying so much with anesthesia, hospital situations. Did they look like, and she made a big face, like a horrified face at them. And they started to shake, and they said, yes, you're right. And that's one story about the Yamaraj's servants, who were called the Dutas, the Yamadutas. Yamaduta means like a servant. Another story is, one time a devotee was with her mother, and the mother was getting ready to leave the body, and then the devotee was saying, chant Hare Krishna, Mama, chant Hare Krishna. And the mother said, nah! And then the mother opened her eyes wide and said, they're coming. Okay. There was even a song in the 1960s about this. It goes, they're coming to take me away, away. They're coming to take me away. They're coming to take me away, away. Don't want to scare you all. Anyway, it's not for devotees. Devotees don't have to see Yamaraj. We see Krishna. And actually, Prabhupada said, death for a devotee is like a mother cat coming and picking up her little baby kitten with her mouth. So the cat has a mouth, obviously, and the mouth is used for different purposes. So with the kitten, the mouth is used out of love to pick the little kitten up by the scruff of her neck and carry the kitten around. No problem with that. But for the mouse or the bird, the mouth is used for a different purpose. So same mouth, but different purpose. So do we want to experience Yamaraj or what's called the Vishnu Dutas? That means the servants of Vishnu. And there's an interesting story in the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam of a guy named Jamil. And he was actually doomed to experience the Yamadutas. That means Yamaraj's servants at the time of death. But he was so fortunate because he was, previously when he was young, he had a good guru, and the guru had trained him up in chanting the Lord's holy name, so somehow or other he named his last son Narayan, and he was chanting Narayan, which is the name of God, at the time of leaving the body, and he was protected just by that chanting, even though he meant something else. He was meaning, my son, my son. But actually, Krishna took it as, oh, he's calling my name. We got to protect him. So if you call Krishna's name for whatever purpose, that's why it's important that if you have children, name them some name of Krishna. And if you're associating with devotees, you should associate with devotees. So at the time of death, you can just say some name of Krishna. Hey, Krishna Das. Hey, Radharani. Hey, Radhe. Like that. So, next verse. Paladas jasmi daichanam kalakalayatam aham mriganam cha mrigendroham vainate yasya pakshinam. All right. Paladaha, pralada. Cha, also as me I am, daichanam of the demons, kalaha, time. Kalayatam of subduers, aham, I am, mriganam of animals, cha, and mriga indra, the lion, aham, I am, vainate yaha, garuda. Cha, also, pakshinam of birds. Among the Daicha demons, I am the devoted Prahlad. Among subduers, I am time. Among beasts, I am the lion. Among birds, I am Garuda. Okay. So let me explain something. Actually, probably will partially explain to the purport, and then I'll explain some more. Diti and Aditi are two sisters. The sons of Aditi are called Adityas, and the sons of Diti are called Daityas. All the Adityas are devotees of the Lord, and all the Daityas are atheistic, almost all. Although Prahlad was born in the family of the Daityas, he was a great devotee from his childhood. Because of his devotional service and godly nature, he is considered to be a representative of Krishna. There are many subduing principles, but time wears down all things in the material universe, and so represents Krishna. Of the many animals, the lion is the most powerful and ferocious, king of the jungle. And of the million varieties of birds, Garuda, the bearer of Lord Vishnu, is the greatest. Let's see if I can talk a little bit about these things. Of course, why do we say that Prahlad was amongst the Daicha demons? Because his family was a demoniac family. In essence, he was not a demon, but he was born, Prabhupada said, virtually demoniac blood flowed in Prahlad's veins. Now, why was he such a great devotee? Here's the story. Once upon a time, when his father, Hiranyakashipu, was performing austerities, Lord Indra decided to kidnap Prahlad Maharaj's mother, because Prahlad Maharaj was in the womb, and he was worried. Indra was worried about what kind of kid was going to pop out, thought he was going to be a big demon, so we take care of him before he creates any problems, but let's take care of the lady. Don't hurt the lady, okay? Because the lady is supposed to be protected. So as he was flying away with Kayadu, who was Prahlad's mother, Narada Muni says, no, there's a great devotee in the womb of this lady. And so he took Kayadu to a place called Narada Kund. which is right near Govardhan. And he instructed her in the science of Krishna consciousness, and Prahlad, within the womb, heard his instructions. That's pretty amazing. But it's a fact that the living entity, even if he's in the womb of his mother, if he hears transcendental sound, he will come out as a devotee. So he came out as a devotee, opposed his father, and ultimately his father was killed by Krishna. And that's another story. So that's Prahlad Maharaj, who was so determined to preach no matter what threat his father invoked. He was ready just to continue his preaching, and preaching really even right to his father's face. So, of course, time, it's easy to understand that. Time wears away at everything, and lion everyone understands, and Garuda, the bird carrier of Krishna, everybody understands. So, that's Prahlad Maharaj. Next text. Pavana pavakam asmi Rama Shastra Vritam Maham Adyashanam Makarachasmi Shrotasam Asmi Janavi. Pavanaha, the wind, Pavatam, of all that purifies, Asmi, I am, Ramaha, Rama, Shastra Vritam, of the carriers of weapons, Aham, I am, Jashanam, of all fish, Makaraha, the shark. Cha, also, Asmi, I am. Shrotasam, of flowing rivers. Asmi, I am. Janavi, the river Ganges. Of purifiers, I am the wind. Of the wielders of weapons, I am Rama. Of fishes, I am the shark. And of flowing rivers, I am the Ganges. So this is pretty self-explanatory. You know, Rama, of course, is the incarnation or avatar of Krishna. And I think everybody knows what a shark is, and everybody knows what the Ganges is. Ganges emanates from the foot-bathing water of Krishna. It actually emanates from outside of the universe, the material universes. It calls the ocean. So, as we mentioned many times before, some of these opulences of the Lord, or representations of the Lord, are actually not different from Krishna, being Vishnu Tattva like Rama, and some are just different aspects of this material world that are very great or powerful. So we have to distinguish, like we worship Rama, but we don't worship the shark. It's not that you're going to just put your head in the mouth of a shark or in the mouth of a lion, as Krishna spoke about previously, and this way worship Krishna. It's not like that. The shark just represents one of the aspects of Krishna's greatness, okay? Of all the aquatics, the shark is one of the biggest and certainly most dangerous to man. Thus, the shark represents Krishna. There are other aquatics that are far bigger than the shark, such as a fish called the Timin Gila fish. So, Sargana Madirhantascha Macham Chayavaham Arjuna Adhyatma Vidya Vijyanam Pada Prabhadatam Maham. Sarganam, of all creations, Adi, the beginning, Anta, and Cha, and Madhyam, middle, Cha, also Eva. Certainly, Aham, I am, Arjuna, O Arjuna, Adhyatma Vidya, spiritual knowledge, Vijnanam, of all education, Vadaha, the natural conclusion, Prabhadatam, of arguments, Aham, I am. Of all creations, I am the beginning and the end, and also the middle. Krishna previously said this too, O Arjuna. Of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self, and among the logicians, I am the conclusive truth. Pretty easy to understand what Krishna is saying here. In other words, before the creation, Krishna existed, and he did the creation. He exists during the creation, and after the creation, he's still there. Okay? We explained this before. Among the created manifestations, the first is the creation of the total material elements, which you heard about before, as explained before. The cosmic manifestation is created and conducted by Mahavishnu, is also known as Karanadakshay Vishnu. Then there's Garbhodakshay Vishnu, who enters into each universe and gives birth to Lord Brahma. And Shiradakshay Vishnu, who enters into everyone's heart and the atom. And then again, it is annihilated by Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is actually an expansion of Krishna. Brahma is a secondary creator. In other words, Krishna just inspires him and gives him the intelligence on how to do it. But actually, it's Krishna's design, it's Krishna's elements, everything that's coming from Krishna. It's just like you hire a contractor, you give him the plans, you pay for the wood and whatever else it is. And here in the material world, you got to stay on his case, but Brahma is so good, you don't have to stay on his case all the time. Although, he does do certain things. He can slip up from time to time. There are instances of that. All these agents of creation, maintenance, and annihilation are incarnations of the material qualities of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he is the beginning, the middle, and the end of all creation. For advanced education, there are various kinds of books of knowledge, such as the 4 Vedas, the 6 supplements, the Vedanta Sutra, books of logic, books of religiosity, and the Puranas. So altogether, there are 14 divisions of books of education. Of these, the book which presents Adhyatma Vidya, spiritual knowledge in particular, the Vedanta Sutra, represents Krishna. And of course, the Srimad Bhagavatam also represents Krishna. It is an incarnation of Krishna. And the Bhagavadgita is spoken by Krishna. It represents Krishna and is Krishna. Among logicians, there are different kinds of arguments. Supporting one's argument with evidence that also supports the opposing side is called jalpa. Merely trying to defeat one's opponent is called vitanda, but the actual conclusion is called vada. Very interesting. So we don't want to just be engaged in vitanda. Just like trying to defeat someone using logic and reasoning without actually understanding or being interested in the truth. This conclusive truth is a representation of Krishna. Next one. Aksharanam akarosme dvandva samakshikasya cha aham evaksheha kalo tathaham vishvato makaha. Aksharanam, of letters, karaha, the first letter. Asmi, I am. Dvandva, the dual. Samakshikasya, of compounds, cha, and aham, I am. Eva, certainly. Akshayaha, eternal. It's interesting. You got a devotee named Akshaya. He's eternal. We're all eternal. Kalaha, time. Data, the creator. Aham, I am. Vishvata Mukaha, Brahma. Of letters, I am the letter A. Just like you have the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And as the first letter. And among compound words, I am the dual compound. I am also inexhaustible time. There's time again. In many places, Krishna actually mentions that he is time. And of creators, I am Brahma. And that's Krishna's already listed him, but he's listing him again. These are different opulences of the Lord, so he can list the same thing several times. Akara, the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet, is the beginning of the Vedic literature. Without akara, nothing can be sounded, therefore it is the beginning of sound. In Sanskrit, there are also many compound words, of which the dual word means Ramakrishna, like Ramakrishna. It's called Dvandva, like Radha Krishna, Ramakrishna. In this compound, the words Rama and Krishna have the same form, and therefore the compound is called dual. Rama, Krishna. In other words, the same amount of syllables. Radha, Krishna. Among all kinds of killers, time is the ultimate because, actually we talked about time before in the previous verse, kills everything. Time is the representative of Krishna because in due course of time there will be a great fire and everything will be annihilated. But even before that happens, we understand the principle of erosion. That even the wind blowing at something over time will erode that particular thing, and whether it's a mountain or whatever it is. Among the living entities who are creators, Brahma, who has 4 heads, is the chief. Therefore, he is a representative of Supreme Lord. And I think we're going to leave this next verse over for tomorrow. It's all right, because it actually is a few things we need to speak about. Text 34. concerning that verse. Okay, so tomorrow we'll continue with text 34. Let me just mark that down so I know. And so we can take questions in a second. Okay. You are all welcome, or some of you are welcome to ask questions. And if you've asked questions the last few nights, please give other people the opportunity to ask some questions, if that's all right with you. Who has a question? No one.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, this is Radha Padma.
Yes, where's your good husband?
He's at work, Gurudev.
That's good.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Guru Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. From text 29, I have this question, where the last line of the purport says, Yama is situated. And after that, death, those who are very sinful are taken there. So there's another place called Yamalok or something like that.
Yeah.
Then if all the sinful activities are taken care of there in the form of punishment, then where is this concept of karma comes? Like, we have different bodies, different situations in our lives, different living entities.
Right. That's a good question. Well, the answer to that is that all your sinful reactions are not taken care of there. You're actually prepared. What some of the sinful reactions are, let's say, taken care of there, and you're actually prepared for your next body there. They make you, oh my God, I hate to say this, they make you like to eat what you're going to eat in your next body. Anyway, there's a description in this 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam if you'd like to hear it, but I'm not going to read it because it would make me nauseous right now. Mm-hmm. But it's not all the sinful reactions, just you get certain reactions, and then he prepares you for your next birth, and then other reactions you'll experience in the next birth or the birth after that. It's not all your punishment you get there.
So all individuals happen to go to that place first and then are segregated, or how is it that?
All individuals? I'm not going there.
Am I going?
I don't know. I know it's a joke. No, you're not going there because you're a devotee. Devotees don't go to Yamaraj. Don't worry about it. Not that everybody goes there. People who don't do any devotional service, who don't have any connection with Krishna consciousness. Some of the punishments are explicitly mentioned in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. You can read about them. Like one example, and if you're, let's say if you're more highly posted in society, you're given a heavier punishment because you get more of a reaction. That's like if you act and do something deliberately, there's a greater punishment under the law than if you did something accidentally. Or accidentally or inadvertently. Let's say you plan out to kill someone, premeditated murder. Then at least in America, they can kill you for doing that. But if you're driving your car, and you're on your mobile phone, which is kind of stupid to be talking on the mobile phone, and you hit someone, you also get tried for murder, but the punishment is not going to be as great as if you had premeditated it. It's still murder. It's still murder. That's what we call in America like first-degree murder or second-degree murder or third-degree murder. So if someone has more knowledge, there's more responsibility. Like my friend Gopal likes to say, I don't know if he's on. I don't know if he's probably listening. Because he likes this. Is he on?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. What does it say in Spider-Man?
With great power must come great responsibility.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so sorry about that. Anyway, so with great power comes great responsibility. So with knowledge, there's more responsibility. For example, if someone is a Brahmin and the Brahmana, even after getting the knowledge, becomes addicted to liquor, then the punishment is greater. Does anyone know what the punishment is for a Brahmin who is addicted to liquor? Anyone here?
He has to drink
Nobody.
it.
He has to, no, not to drink the liquor. That's a punishment in and of itself.
He has to drink the molten iron in hell.
Yeah, molten metal. Yeah, molten lead
Yes.
or iron or something like that.
Yeah.
And what's the punishment for someone who harasses poor sannyasis like me? Does anyone know the punishment?
They get talked about in class all the time.
No, no. The punishment is worse. He gets put through a sugarcane press again and again in his subtle body. So be kind to me. So anyway, no, any devotee. If you harass any devotee, and someone who's really bad, like let's say you go into a country where you're not allowed to be a devotee, and the police beat you up and hit you and everything like that. The punishment is you get put in a sugarcane press. And someone who is addicted to prostitutes, what happens to that person? Anyone know?
Yes.
What?
They will get a beautiful prostitute in hell, but it will be made of molten iron, red hot molten iron.
A red hot iron form you get to embrace.
Yeah.
So, anyway, does anyone want to go there?
No.
Then you
Not
learn
with
your
social
lesson.
distancing.
You learn your lesson. You actually learn your lesson from all these different experiences. Like we learn lessons in this lifetime. We have different experiences, and some of them are pretty traumatic. I mean, I think most people have been through a lot of traumatic experiences, and hopefully you learn. As I mentioned before, anybody can make a mistake, and great leaders make a lot of mistakes, but great leaders only make the same mistake once. So don't make the same mistake more than once. So, anyway, Yamaraj. But anyway, for devotees, Yamaraj is friendly. So don't worry. He loves devotees. He loves, and who knows what the Bhagavatam says if you want to defeat death? What do you need to do with Yamaraj? Is any Bhagavatam scholars here? If you want to defeat death, keep everybody from dying. Nobody knows. I guess I'll answer. Then you need to have such potent Krishna Katha that Yamaraj comes to hear and he forgets about his normal duties. And then also there's other ways to defeat Yamaraj. This is very interesting stories that I'm thinking of right now. Let me try to think of that other story. No, I can't think of it right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, tomorrow we'll start talking about Yamaraj stories. How you can defeat Yamaraj by the chanting of Hare Krishna. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, don't worry about Yamaraj. Don't worry about Yamaraj. You won't have to see him. So, who else? Who else? You have time?
I have one question.
Yeah.
Gurudev, since when we die and then normal body is bent to ashes,
Yeah.
and then when the Mahapralaya comes up, then the everything is burned by Ananta Shesh into
Yeah.
ashes.
Yeah.
Then our body goes into Mahatattva. Then
Yeah.
when
Not
the
your
three
body
Krishna,
doesn't go.
yeah,
Yeah, your body.
that's,
Not your body. You're already ashes. You know.
yes,
You
yes.
know.
Then the soul will have a next body.
The soul goes into Mahavishnu.
Yes, but when the new creation comes up, then our soul comes out and we'll have a new body. So all
Yes.
this branding, brand by Ananta Shesh and fire, everything's brand. But our material desires never get brand. And we,
No. You take your material desires with you in your subtle body, and at the end of the creation, the Supreme Lord reminds you of those material desires when there's a new creation.
so how can we get rid of this material desires?
How can?
We
Listen to
get
your guru. Just listen to every word he says. Just say, yes, sir, or whatever you say, sir. We will do, sir.
Yes,
I
sir.
surrender to you, sir. The way you get rid of your material desires is you desire to please Krishna and Guru. That's all. Out of love. Love is the strongest force. So if the love is reposed in the right objects,
Mhm.
then automatically material things go away. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Asambhayam Gyanam Cha Yada Haitakam. By rendering service to Krishna and spiritual master, then automatically one gets causeless knowledge and detachment from this material world. So you don't have to worry so much about those material desires. Don't worry about Yamaraj. I mean, it's not. I never worry about him.
Yeah. One more question, Gurudev.
Yeah.
I was in Bhagavad Gita. I said that whatever Yaji Ashray Shastras, so whatever great man does, the common men follow. So
Yes.
what do you mean by great man, Gurudev?
Well, actually, Bhagavad Gita. Did you give an exact translation of that verse? It's whatever exemplars do, other people will follow. In other words, whatever prominent. We're not going to forget about the word great right now. And Prabhupada meant by using the word great, he meant prominent. What prominent people do, people follow. Because great is not used to indicate wonderful in that particular context, in that particular verse. It's meant to indicate someone who is very prominent. Understand?
Yes.
Like you could say, he is a great demon. Hiranyakashipu was a great
Great.
demon. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean he was a wonderful demon. It means he was a prominent demon. So the word great has different meanings according to the context in which the word is used. You can say someone to someone, you are a great big fool, right?
Yes.
It doesn't mean you're wonderful. So great can mean just something that's very prominent or big. It can also mean something that's nice. So that word, like most words in English, English is a very inexact language. Like most words in English are dependent, or the meaning is dependent upon the context in which they're used. So great can mean big, or it can mean nice. How are you feeling today? Great. It doesn't mean I'm big. It means I'm feeling nice. Okay, I think we will probably. Oops, there's chat windows. Someone is chatting. Oh, someone needs to mute. That's actually usually it's Sumuk who needs to be muted because he has all that noise behind him. So we want to thank everybody very much for joining us. Tomorrow night we'll continue at the same time, same station, and it's very nice to be able to speak about Krishna, Krishna Katha to everybody every evening. I'm very enlivened by this, and I think when I start traveling, I want to continue this evening thing, and I can just stop wherever I am and go on the internet. It's just nice to see everybody. I mean, I wish I could see more devotees from Fiji, but I guess, let's see, from Fiji, anyone there from Fiji besides Sumuk? Anyone who is in Fiji now besides Sumuk? No? I saw Shalagram in the beginning, but he's not on right now. Wish I could see more devotees from Fiji. Maybe you should encourage them, Sumuk.
Yeah. Madhacharya is here.
Oh, Madhvacharya. Oh, yeah, Madhvacharya. Yeah, he's right next to you. That's right.
Yeah.
Madhvacharya and Sumuk are the most advanced devotees in Fiji. They're on all this. So Fiji and Australia. Do we have anyone from Australia? We got New Zealand people. Australia. Nope. Oh, Sita. Sita's from Australia. Yeah, so we got Sita from Australia. So all of you are online from the far-flung corners of the world. I give you special blessings for joining us. You get more blessings than everybody else as you joined us. So remember that. If you want blessings, you got to join us. Okay, on that happy note, all glories to His divine grace, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada.